This is Saturday Morning Mysteries.
And we're your hosts, Alexis and Grace. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Saturday Morning Mysteries, except it's probably not Saturday because this is a bonus content time. But anyway, we are your hosts. I'm Alexis.
I'm Grace.
And we are going to be talking about crime today, as we almost always do, actually, in one way or another. But today, specifically crime, not animation. If you've been following the podcast / videocast for quite a while now, joining us along on this adventure, then you know that sometimes we like to throw in random extra bonus content for y'all, where we just talk about a lot of fun, silly crimes, court cases, legal proceedings, and whatnot from, I don't know, like, wasn't what we were in Romania one time? We talked about something in Switzerland, all over the place.
We're
just funny stories. We don't discriminate against borders and where the crimes.
Florida.
We probably could go on about Florida for days. Yes. But anyway, so today Grace will be talking us through some crime capers that I'm very excited for. It's a surprise. I have no clue what she's going to be going through today. So
I'm also very excited for it because the topic I decided to cover today for this crime caper is like a concept, or it's like a method or tool used in the path of solving crimes that was inspired by one of our Courage the Cowardly Dog episodes, actually.
Okay.
You're like, how?
I'm like, there's only a couple of those that could maybe actually happen in the real world, so I'm narrowing it down.
Yes. So, while in Courage the Cowardly Dog, which if you haven't finished, I guess it depends when we release this. We don't have a schedule for these,
have no clue. Yeah.
There's at least some episodes of Courage that we've covered out. Go listen to those. And specifically, go listen to our Shirley the Medium.
Okay, I knew it.
Episode. Is that what you were hoping for?
That was, I was, because anything else, I would be very terrified about the story you're about to tell me, because it would involve like the astral. I don't know. I guess this.
Yeah, different planes.
But yeah, I was hoping it had to do with the medium.
Yes. So when, again, in Courage the Cowardly Dog, it's great and fine and dandy when Shirley the Medium comes in to help with crimes and that type of stuff. It's slightly less fine and dandy and comical, except we're always going to make it comical here today. Hopefully, maybe. When authorities decide to use what's dubbed forensic hypnosis to solve actual crimes like murder.
This sounds like it's breaking some United Nations conventions against like torture and stuff. There's got to be a convention against mind control, right?
Well, we're gonna get into it. So first, all your like lawyer signs are flashing right now. So we're gonna jump into first what forensic hypnosis actually is. And it's exactly what it gosh darn sounds like. So actual investigators, will call in a declared hypnotist, that's the word.
Yeah.
For various things. So for example, to help find a clue in a case, which like is mainly just a waste of taxpayer dollars, sometimes works out if like the hypnotist is good at deductive reasoning to help find clues, maybe.
AKA like what a detective should also be doing.
Yeah. This person should just be a detective.
Right.
Or like pure luck. Which like, again, just kind of a waste of taxpayer dollars. But they will also bring one in to quote unquote hypnotize a witness or the accused themselves, often as a memory recovery tactic, they say. And not in the fun Biggie Smalls way of hypnotize me. Baby, can't you see? Sometimes your words just hypnotize me. But this will be used in a court of law, possibly in a death penalty case type of way.
That's okay.
Very different vibe.
I'm channeling evidence class, which I did not do that great in evidence law. Let me tell you, it's a toughie, but this is arguable. Like the veracity of a statement said under hypnosis, and also it's like that coercion. Anyway, sorry.
We're going to get into the legal side of things. Don't worry.
Okay.
But before we do that, yes. You're just like,
let's joke around about it more. I know.
Yeah. But a brief history of this practice is that it actually became popular, according to, I think, probably Wikipedia, most likely that was my source here, after World War II. And it was hypnotherapy is what it was called then. So not in the forensic sense, but like the popularity of hypnosis as a whole. And specifically, it was used to try and help treat soldiers with post-traumatic stress disorder, so PTSD. But it wasn't until the late 60s that hypnotic evidence would be allowed in court. So basically between like World War II, again, how do we deal with PTSD? Let's try and like hypnotize them to like work through whatever literal incredible trauma they're going through from World War II. It slowly like became more popular like throughout the 50s and 60s, just like in the general public. And that's important because it was allowed in court when it officially passed the Fry standard, which is essentially a standard that says evidence can be admissible in court if the scientific method behind it is generally accepted. So again, by the late 60s, I think this was like 68 or 69, hypnosis was a widely enough accepted thing that courts of law gave it the go-ahead. Basically, a couple cases said it was fine to use as evidence, and then that set the precedent. So then other cases started using it. So it really took off in the 70s within law enforcement, where literal centers were built to teach police about this method.
Oh my God.
Like, again, great use of taxpayer dollars, but it was like, here's how to get confessions via hypnosis. And like, there were whole centers built that police would go and like get trained at in the 70s. And it reached its peak in the 80s during the Satanic Panic, where under so-called hypnosis, people, mainly children, began telling authorities about quote unquote satanic sexual abuse rituals and cults, which were apparently buried away in their minds, but brought back under hypnosis, quote unquote, AKA a lot of suggestibility to small children who just want to please authority figures who are freaked out about the quote unquote satanic
and
cults.
A few leading questions can easily lead them in the wrong direction.
Exactly. And from this, again, in peaking really in the 80s and the 90s, the early 90s, adults were thrown in jail for sometimes literally decades due to these claims that were pretty much all proven to be false, as the kids later grew up and recanted because they realized this shit never happened and they were coerced when they were like 7 years old. So during the latter half of the last century, the Justice Department weighed in on this. So we're going to get into some of the legal side of things now with forensic hypnosis. In their own code and internal policy, the Justice Department says, in part, I quote, "In certain limited cases, the use of forensic hypnosis can be an aid in the investigative process. Witnesses to crimes have been able to recall certain facets of the crime while in a hypnotic state that they had not remembered without hypnosis. The use of hypnosis, however, is subject to serious objections and thus should be only used on rare occasions." So that's what the Justice Department says. So don't worry. They said only rare occasions. So we're all good now, right? Just kidding. Obviously not. Or I wouldn't be doing this, crime caper.
Exactly. Or else crime caper over.
Over. Problem solved.
That was a fun little talk about hypnosis. All right. Until next
no
time.
problems. Yeah. It ended in the 80s and 90s, the Satanic Panic. Great. Cool. No. So I read this, it was a 2019 article in The Garden by Ariel Ramchandani. I think is how you say this last name. And as of 2019, at least, there were 13 states that allow hypnotically induced testimony according to specific requirements. So in order to have it be admissible in court, there are some requirements. And 4 other states permit it with no requirements at all.
Cool.
Any type of hypnosis, quote unquote, can be used as evidence in court.
Fair game. Cool.
Yes. So that in total is 17 states where in some way, shape, or form it's allowed in court. And 10 of those states, so you know, have active death penalties, which means that innocent people could be put to death due to the use of forensic hypnosis. And we know this is a risk because at least 6 people have been exonerated based on DNA evidence when that technology came around, who were originally convicted in part due to hypnotically induced testimony. Wow. Yes. And also 6 other states, separate from those 17, have no forensic hypnosis case law. So it's completely vague and like a gray area in those states of whether or not you can or cannot use it. So we're going to take a brief pause before talking more about the legal side of things.
Yeah.
And just note that some people obviously find like great peace and comfort in things like hypnotherapy. They can experience relaxation and reduced anxiety, and that's awesome. Like do whatever you need to do for your mental health.
Exactly.
Yes. And there are also maybe like pieces. Obviously, I'm shitting on hypnosis a lot in this whole thing because like
particular. I mean, only in a life and death situation.
Exactly.
Criminal law involves life or death matters.
Yes.
So it's like, I understand for therapy, for mental well-being and things like that, but there's a line for everything.
Right. And like whether or not you believe like hypnosis can be done or not, like this like sense of like mind control, like, you know, I mean, we saw again in like Satanic Panic era and that type of stuff where like, you know, sometimes people like kids or just general humans are highly suggestible and thus they can be nudged into believing or doing certain things under like the guise of hypnosis. So like, you know, in that sense, some people are more suggestible than others.
Right.
Again, that all is fine. But like you just said, the issue arises when it's used as a point of evidence in a trial, especially when it's under quote unquote recovered memories or recalling memories. And why that's an issue is, first of all, the psychological or psychology community itself is super like twisted and turned and split when it comes to the topic of recovered memories. Even to begin with, like, can you recover memories? It's a whole thing that I did not dive into because I didn't want to read scientific papers about it. I was like, great, it's split. Bye.
Cool. That's all I needed to know. There is
one sentence. Done. People talk about it. The end.
Done. Cool. What do they say? I don't know. But they say things.
Things have been said by someone and someone else. The end.
The end.
And now by me. Check. Not a psychologist. And then, like I just said, that maybe some people, again, are more suggestible, can lead to what you said earlier, leading witnesses, which is essentially the practice of, like nudging them in a certain direction by very specifically put questions that kind of hint someone being interviewed towards the answer that the interviewer wants to hear. And having a hypnotist maybe push the witness into quote unquote recalling a crime based on hints and nudges while hypnotized. can essentially create false memories and thus false testimonies in the court of law. But if we look even more into memories overall, no less recalling them under hypnosis, there's essentially over the last, couple decades, or at least, decade-ish, more and more research coming out that basically explains how witness memory, not even under hypnosis, is like kind of bad forensic evidence to begin with. Simply put, we forget shit all the time because we're humans.
Yeah.
Like,
it's hearsay. It's a type of hearsay.
Right. Yeah. Like, we misremember things. Even people who like are steadfast, they have the best intentions. They truly believe what they saw. They could misremember a detail by no fault of their own. We simply just forget shit all the time because, again, we're humans. We thought it. I mean, this has happened in so many cases, especially, like big serial killer cases where it's like, oh, I think the car was like gold, and it like was a brown car instead. And it's, they thought they saw gold, and that's it.
Which like could seem like a small, detail, but it can make all the difference. And like, if you're in a criminal trial of some sort, it means that you've probably gone through some sort of like life altering, very high anxiety, high stress sort of event. And like your mind just doesn't process information the same way under those circumstances as it does if you're just like going for a casual walk in the park or whatever.
Exactly.
And you just see, someone walking by. Even then you probably wouldn't remember that. But
exactly. Yeah. Like, how much are you actually picking up on? You just happen to be there at that time. So they call you in and like, you try your best. So again, doubly so, we're fallible as humans to begin with, and then add on something like hypnosis, where again, it can be a little dicey as to whether or not you actually recalled this memory in a literal life or death case, which some of these are still active today. There are people on death row, and I think the Innocence Project, was actively working on this, a great organization, who, part of their trial that convicted them was hypnosis.
Wow.
So I don't really have a silver lining at the end here. I think, again, that article is from 2019. I think some states allow, I guess, this would be a silver lining. Some states do allow folks who have been convicted to appeal or question a conviction if it involved what's known as junk science in the legal realms, called that, which in a lot of places includes forensic hypnosis, which is great. So my summary is keep hypnotism maybe to like the fair, the mysticism store, and Biggie Smalls. The end.
Nice.
Yes.
Nice.
And that's it. That's our quick look at forensic hypnotism, a little history, a little why it's a huge problem in the court of law, and keep it to Shirley the Medium, maybe.
Yeah. And again, go back and watch our Courage the Cowardly Dog arc to get a sense of why Shirley and Shirley alone should be the one using it in any sort of criminal case or otherwise. Wow. That's man, I did not realize that it had been used in cases where like there were people on death row now who have been executed as well, it sounds like. Oh, goodness,
it's pretty
gracious.
grim.
Yeah, it is. I know that the federal rules of evidence, at least, so each state has its own like rules for its own court system on what is and isn't admissible. But under like federal law, they're typically like past recollections, which I think that's what the hypnotized recollections or whatever would fall under. Like that's hearsay unless you have like a lot of exceptions to prove like, no, it's valid. I forget what the fuck the exceptions are, but I know that as a standard, it's like if you're gonna even try to use memories as evidence, like have a lot of other stuff to prove too. So like you said, we're valuable. We don't remember shit, and if whether it's pulled through hypnosis or otherwise. So
and I think that's why the Justice Department code on it was like has serious objections, so should only be like rare occasions.
Yeah.
But the fact that they still acknowledge it, give it a tip of the hat,
right. It can be one factor out of many that like a jury could look at and be like, yeah, you know, it's not like the main factor, but like,
hopefully
that testimony from that hypnotized person was it stuck with me.
Yeah, maybe everyone who is on the jury has to also like meet with the hypnotist and try to be hypnotized by them to be like
to see if it works.
Yeah.
To like read through their credentials.
Yeah, exactly. All of a sudden they all walk out with like recovered memories against
they're like all crying and stuff. It's like, oh shit, mistrial.
God,
not fair.
Big yikes.
Oh god. Wow.
Well,
great though.
Anyways,
great lesson. That was amazing for not great reasons, but I feel like I've learned something very important today. So
excellent.
Appreciate that.
I got you. And
we will be back with maybe more informative or just straight up funny Crime Capers bonus content in the future.
Indeed, we shall be. Okay, bye.
Bye. Thanks for tuning in to Saturday Morning Mysteries.
If you enjoyed this episode, please share, rate, review, leave us a like, and drop a comment. We post episodes every Saturday and bonus tune tangents whenever we feel like it. So please subscribe so you don't miss the shenanigans.
And if you want to follow us on YouTube, click the bell under the YouTube subscribe button to receive notifications when new videos are posted.
And if you want to subscribe to the podcast, we have no idea what you're listening to us on. So just hit the big subscribe button on whatever app you're using. We believe in you.
Give us a follow on Twitter and Instagram at SatmornMist, all the abreves, and let us know if you have any episode or show requests by emailing SaturdayMorningMysteries@gmail.com.
Thanks to Jenna Kendall for the logo design and to Ava Sakiki for the music used during this week's episode.
See y'all groovy kids next week on Saturday Morning Mysteries.